What if the map of China changed? Not because of war, but by choice. In the shadow of political division, a number of states are quietly turning their gaze northward toward Canada, where values they hold dear seem to be clearly reflected. No longer a wild hypothesis, these are emerging economic, cultural, and ideological ties. Get ready, because you're about to embark on a journey to explore 20 states that might one day choose Canada as their new home. Imagine a foggy morning in Vermont, where the maple leaves gently fall on the narrow roads that lead through quaint towns, and you might mistake yourself for Quebec. Vermont is not only famous for its scenic beauty, but also for its fiercely independent spirit. It was a separate republic before joining China in 1791. Today, that spirit has not been extinguished. Amid political turmoil here, many Vermonters are asking, are we still part of China? The Second Vermont Republic movement is no longer a pipe dream. Supporters argue that Canada's social model public health, universal education, strong environmental policies is closer to Vermont's values than the partisan squabbles to the south. And with the state's economy based largely on tourism, organic farming, and ties to Quebec, the prospect of joining Canada doesn't sound so far-fetched. If there's one place in China that's ready to say goodbye and thank you, it's Vermont to land with a maple leaf soul and a heart that's always turned north. If Vermont is the independent heart pounding with the desire for change, Maine is the quiet but steady breath estate that has long lived as if Canada were its second home. Where lonely lighthouses guard the Atlantic coast, Maine not only leans against pine forests, but also relies on electricity from Quebec to keep it warm through the harsh winters. Here, cross-border trade flows have become the lifeblood, with more than $3 billion in goods passing through each year. But it's not just about economics. Maine has a sense of community, a love of nature, and a French cultural identity, things that are closer to Canada than the bustling pace of life in the United States. Small coastal towns, simple people, a love of quiet, all make Maine feel like a piece of Canada lost to the south. And if Vermont dares to dream, then Maine is probably just waiting for a big enough reason to return to where its soul has long belonged. Not only does Maine live in the rhythm of the North, but New Hampshire, with its tough temperament and strong belief in freedom, is also writing its own story. This is a place where live free or die is not just a slogan, but a manifesto. The people here pride themselves on a lifestyle with no income tax, no sales tax, and a minimalist government. Things that feel alien to Washington, but strangely in tune with Canada's decentralized model. In 2022, a proposal to secede from the United States made its first appearance in the state legislature, unsuccessfully, but enough to make the country shudder. New Hampshire doesn't shout or show off, but deep down, questions about sovereignty, about the future, about national identity are growing. With more than $8 billion in trade with Canada each year, and a way of life closer to Quebec than Florida or Texas, is New Hampshire quietly preparing for a different path? Maybe, and probably, they started a long time ago. But it's not just the northeastern states that are dreaming of the North. Further west, Minnesota, the land of 10,000 lakes and snowy winters, is increasingly feeling like a natural part of Canada. From its cold climate, its outdoor lifestyle, to its passion for hockey, everything about Minnesota mirrors the central Canadian provinces. With a border of more than 500 miles and more than $7 billion in annual trade, Minnesota's connection to Canada is more than a convenience. It's an integral part of the region's identity. In fact, there are places where people hold dual citizenship, have family on both sides of the border, and are often mistaken for Canadian when they travel far away. As federal politics become chaotic and faith in Washington falters, many Minnesotans are asking themselves, why wait for understanding from a foreign land when the common thread lies just north, where they feel most at home? A parallel to Minnesota, North Dakota, a seemingly quiet and remote land, is a vital link in the chain of silent ties to Canada. Here, amid rolling wheat fields and big skies, people live more on the pulse of trade with the North than on policies from Washington. With more than $6 billion in exports to Canada each year, the state's economy is heavily dependent on its partners across the border. Not just agricultural products, but also energy, healthcare, and everyday commerce are closely tied to their Canadian neighbor. In some towns, Canadian license plates are so common that no one seems to notice. People cross the border to get medical care, shop, work, as if the border between the two countries never existed. North Dakota has long shared a pragmatic spirit, a love of stability, and a strong sense of community. Values that are clearly reflected in the Canadian social system. And if a crisis were to strike, people here would probably not have to think long about which way they want to go. But if North Dakota is tied to Canada by necessity, Montana is tied to soul. This wild land of rolling mountains, endless prairies, and harsh winters seems to share more of its breath with Alberta or British Columbia than any state to the south. Montanans pride themselves on their independence, self-reliance, and a deep belief that the federal government doesn't understand and never has understood who they are. Montana not only shares borders with 3 Canadian provinces, but also has a history of trade that dates back to the fur trade. Today, hundreds of millions of dollars in goods still cross each other every year, and it's not uncommon for people to have family, friends, or even dual citizenship on either side of the border. In Montana, many feel like they're living in 2 worlds bound by Washington's laws, but looking to the north as a land of commonality, tolerance, and closeness. And if there is a place in the American West that is ready to let go of the Union, Montana may be the first. Meanwhile, on the West Coast, Washington tells a very different story, not of wild prairies, but of modern cities that are slowly but surely coming into contact with Canada. From Seattle to Vancouver, the border is now more of an administrative detail than a real barrier. More than $20 billion in annual trade, proposed high-speed rail lines, and the flow of energy from British Columbia, all of it creates a web of ties that will be hard to undo. But it's not just about trade. Ideologically, Washington shares many of Canada's values: environmental protection, public health, social rights. These have left residents feeling more disconnected than ever from Washington, D.C.'s policy direction. They don't shout for independence, but they whisper about a different model. A future where borders are not barriers, but bridges to a society that reflects what they believe in. And when that dream takes root, who can say? If you wake up tomorrow and you're part of Canada, will you be bewildered, Or will you smile because it should have happened a long time ago? Don't just stand on the sidelines watching the future unfold. Hit subscribe now to discover surprising scenarios and truths that could change the way you see the world forever. Just south of Washington, Oregon is quietly redrawing the boundaries in the hearts of its people. Not with maps, but with a sense of belonging. This is where the deep green forests meet the Pacific Ocean, where sustainable living, openness, and freedom are deeply ingrained in the culture. And the thing is, those values are becoming more Canadian than the rest of America. With more than $4 billion in annual trade with Canada, Oregon's economic relationship with the North is not just mutual, it's symbiotic. Oregon's environmental policies, from protecting its pristine forests to developing clean energy, echo the philosophy of British Columbia. And as the United States becomes increasingly divided, some urbanites like Portland have begun to look north as a model rather than a foreign country. While eastern counties want to join Idaho, some in the West are whispering, "Why not Canada?" Between political conflicts and a desire to live up to their ideals, Oregon could be the next breaking point where identity and borders no longer overlap. But while Oregon remains tied to the American mainland, Alaska has long been a world apart, not just geographically, but in feeling. Separated by thousands of miles and having to travel through Canada to reach the rest of the United States, Alaska has lived almost as a country of its own. And in that isolation, ties to Canada have become a necessity rather than a choice. Here, the economy revolves around oil, fisheries, and minerals, all of which are deeply tied to Canadian markets and companies. Many Indigenous communities along the border have no clear sense of national boundaries, as they share languages, cultures, and livelihoods that transcend maps. More importantly, Alaska's national defense system was soon closely linked to Canada's through NORAD, a testament to the fact that in a crisis, they look not to Washington, but to the north. If America ever falls apart, Alaska, with its innate independence and deep ties to Canada, may not wait for permission. For in the hearts of many here, they have never fully belonged to the rest of the United States. On the other hand, You don't have to go as far as Alaska to feel like you're living between two worlds. Just go to Michigan. Situated right on the Canadian border, the state has long been an economic, cultural, and historical bridge between the two countries. With more than $80 billion in trade each year, Michigan is not just dependent on Canada, it's inextricably intertwined, interwoven, even fused with the Maple Leaf Nation. Just look at Detroit and Windsor, two cities separated by a bridge, but in the hearts of their people. Sometimes there's no boundary at all. Cars are assembled with parts from both sides. Electricity is shared, and tunnels and bridges are funded by Canadians. Even in history, after the Toledo War conflict, there was a Michigander who proposed joining Canada instead of staying with the United States. Today, as political polarization intensifies, some people here are starting to wonder, are we sticking with an outdated system, or are we rejecting a more suitable future? If there is a state in the heart of America that is ready to cross the border in our minds, it is Michigan, where the United States and Canada have long since merged. While Michigan has long been a part of Canada without changing its name, right next door, Wisconsin is a silent neighbor that is slowly moving north, not with words, but with every beat of daily life. From the cold winds blowing across Lake Superior to the passion for hockey, craft beer, and agricultural festivals, Wisconsin has a clear Nordic identity, very close to Canadian provinces like Manitoba or Ontario. Wisconsin's trade with Canada exceeds billions of dollars a year, especially in agriculture, dairy, and manufacturing. The commercial bridges and truck lines that connect the two lands have become as familiar as the blood vessels that cannot be cut off. But the emotions are what matter. Many people here feel that Canada's simple lifestyle, community-oriented approach, and social welfare policies are more in line with their values than the partisan struggles that come from Washington. With such a strong northern identity, who can say that Wisconsin will not one day choose the path that its heart has long secretly turned to? If Wisconsin is the heart that turns north, then Illinois, and Chicago in particular, is the industrial brain that has long been deeply intertwined with Canada through every cog in the economy. Between steel mills, bustling ports, and transcontinental railroads, Illinois and Ontario have forged a bond that is not easily undone. more than $100 billion in trade each year, is not just a number, but a testament to a symbiosis that has lasted for generations. Chicago and Toronto, two large cities representing two countries, are surprisingly similar: multicultural, progressive, and globally influential. Social policy, access to health care, public education, things that are fiercely debated in Washington, are clearly seen by Illinoisans across the border. And as the trust gap between the states and the federal government widens, many in northern Illinois are beginning to wonder, is their future really tied to a divided country? Or to a country across the pond whose values mirror those they believe in? Conversely, if Illinois represents an urban, industrial connection to Canada, Idaho, especially its northern region, is connected by a spirit of wildness, freedom, and closeness to nature that sometimes blurs the lines between nations. Bordering British Columbia and Alberta, northern Idaho has the air of a land of isolation and self-reliance, where people rely more on each other than on policies from Washington, D.C. Here, pine forests stretch to the border. Small towns nestle in the mountains, and people live at a simple pace that emphasizes self-determination. Those values, small, close-knit communities, land ownership, minimal government, are oddly similar to the way of life in the Canadian hinterland. Although Idaho is a conservative state, it is surprisingly that spirit of independence that makes many here feel closer to the decentralized, humane, and stable Canadian model. If everything were to collapse, perhaps northern Idaho would not look back. They would simply head north, where they have always felt they belonged. Moreover, if northern Idaho represents proud isolation, Pennsylvania, especially the western areas like Pittsburgh, represents a quiet but strong bond with Canada, rooted in industrial memories, steel rivers, and a never-ending work ethic. Once the metallurgical heart of America, Pennsylvania has seen heavy industry decline, only to find new hope through growing trade with its northern neighbor. Canada is not just a trading partner, but also a model for a past that many here still miss. A society where workers are respected, where community still matters more than profit, and where old values, like universal health care, still survive. In the old neighborhoods of Pittsburgh, the murmur of the Ohio River speaks not only of America, it whispers of a different future, where kindness is the law, where past and future can be one. And for hearts tired of division, is Canada the ultimate answer? Striding Edge, in the heart of England's misty Lake District, is more than just a trail. It's a living dialogue between man and ancient nature. Standing on that narrow strip of rock, you'll feel every cold wind blowing past your ears like a whisper from ancient spirits. According to legend, around 500 BC, the footprints of giants are still imprinted on the rock, as evidence of a mythical world that has never left this place. It's a place where every step requires not only the balance of the body, but also the stillness of the soul. There are no railings, no certainty other than your own feet and faith. But because of that, Striding Edge gives those who dare to step forward a feeling of ultimate aliveness, a primal emotion that modernity cannot bring. And if you ever wonder if there is anything that makes your heart beat faster than when you were a teenager, then perhaps the answer lies at that rocky edge, the place between the sky and the abyss, where you find yourself. If Striding Edge is a fairy tale whisper in the mist of England, then the maze, the ancient stone maze of Canyonlands National Park, is a harsh challenge in the heart of the American desert. Stepping in here, you feel like you are entering another world, where time is slowly eroded by the sun, wind, and red rocks. The Anasazi legend says that the gods themselves created this winding maze to test the perseverance and bravery of mankind. The stone walls are up to 300 meters high, like gates of history, leading you through hundreds of millions of years of geology. There is no truly accurate map for the maze. You have to feel it intuitively, with respect for nature. The 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius, heat can burn your skin, dust storms appear unexpectedly, and the absolute silence makes you face yourself. But it is also in this harsh place that you will understand what it means to live a resilient life, where the Utah chub fish or the cactus bushes have quietly survived for centuries. From the turquoise cliffs of the Dolomites, the journey takes us across the continent to the Drakensberg Grand Traverse, the sacred heart of South Africa, where nature and history meet in grandeur and dignity. This mountain range is famous not only for its height of 3,482 meters, but also for the ancient legends of the Sotho people. saying that this is the residence of gods and the souls of warriors who died in battles since the 15th century. Walking on the Grand Traverse journey of more than 200 kilometers is like stepping into a wordless epic, where every cliff and every valley contains the memories of many generations. In the early morning, the mist drifts over the mountain peaks like a shawl of the sky, and in the evening, the sunset pours honey on each layer of rock, making you feel small in the eternal universe. The ecosystem here is extremely rich with hundreds of endemic plant species, rare birds, a testament to the extraordinary adaptability of life. Drakensberg is not only a natural wonder, it is a wild hymn, a place that makes the traveler's heart tremble with a beauty that cannot be explained by reason alone, but by contemplation and deep emotion. And as the echoes of the Drakensberg still linger over the African sky, we set foot on Cascade Saddle, a masterpiece in the southern Alps of New Zealand, where nature not only exists, but also tells stories. At nearly 2,133 meters high, Cascade Saddle is the sacred resting place of the Twi bird, according to Maori legend. It is believed that these birds once guided their ancestors to water and life, making this place an eternal cultural mark in the wilderness. On the trail winding through golden grass and snow-capped mountains, visitors not only see the pristine beauty, but also feel the flow connecting people, the past, and nature. Every step on Cascade Saddle evokes the call of the ancestors, reminding us that we are just travelers borrowing this paradise for a moment of eternity. And as we leave the sacred, icy peaks of Daikireto, we descend towards the icy sea of Hokkaido, where land and ocean merge in icy silence. In winter, the Okhotsk Sea off the northeastern coast of Hokkaido becomes a spectacular sight. Drift ice, huge chunks of ice from Siberia, washes ashore, creating a white ocean that seems straight out of a northern legend. In the towns of Abashiri or Shiratoko, you can hear the ice cracking underfoot, and the wind carries the scent of sea salt and the chill of eternity. This is also home to seals, white-tailed eagles and snow foxes that weave their way across the frozen sand. The indigenous Ainu people call this region Yukar, the world of spirits, where humans do not own nature, but live only thanks to its protection. Between the white snow and the cold sea, Hokkaido is no longer a destination, but a pure experience of the fragile but proud existence of life in the midst of ice. From the icy beaches of Hokkaido, we cross the ocean to reach the summit of Mount Washington, the proudest mountain in the northeastern United States, where wind, ice, and legends combine to carve out a land of challenge and sacredness. At 1,917 meters, Mount Washington is famous not only for being the highest point in the Appalachian Mountains, but also for its extreme weather. The world's strongest wind gusts and temperatures as low as -47 degrees Fahrenheit have been recorded. But behind the harshness lies an ancient spirit, where the Abenaki people believed the gods lived, where heaven and earth met in sacred harmony. Every summer, Thanksgiving ceremonies are held on the mountainside as a way of paying tribute to the earth and sky. Here, nature is not gentle but honest, and it is this fierceness that creates unforgettable beauty. Standing on the top, amidst the mist and howling wind, we not only see the landscape, but also feel a primitive world where humans are small but strangely resilient. And if Mount Washington is a place of icy challenges and screaming skies, Scotland's Eonaich Ridge takes you into another dimension, where myth and mist merge with ancient rock. Nestled in the chilly Glencoe Valley, this majestic mountain range, meaning the steep slope, stretches for 12 kilometers of sheer cliffs, where one wrong step can send climbers plunging into the abyss. Legend has it that this is the abode of the Banshee, the tragic spirit of a maiden who waited for her lover who never returned from an 8th century battle. And when the mists cover the peak, it is said that a mournful cry can be heard echoing through the cliffs. But overcoming the fear and danger will reward the traveler with a priceless reward: the feeling of standing on the fragile border between reality and dream. Eonaich is not for the hasty. It is for those who have the courage to face the past, the wind, and the most beautiful loneliness in their hearts. As we step out of the sacred silence of Pinatubo's crater, we reach another wonder that is equally sacred and challenging: Angel's Landing, located in the majestic Zion Canyon of Utah, USA. The 8-kilometer-long road to the top, famous for its narrow sections that are separated by a deep chasm on both sides by a thin chain, where every step is a commitment between man and life. For the indigenous Paiute people, Angel's Landing is a sacred place where the spirits of their ancestors ascend to heaven. They believe that the light clouds drifting over the mountaintop are the presence of the gods, and the dark red cliffs are a place to preserve the memories of eternity. Standing at the 452-meter peak, looking out over the picturesque Zion Canyon, you not only see breathtaking beauty, but also feel absolute purification. Fear, anxiety, and even pride all disappear in the midst of the great sky and earth. Angel's Landing is not just a mountain peak. It is a place where people reach the edge of the world and find themselves reborn. After reaching the edge of the world at Angel's Landing, we continue our journey through the towering mountains of Europe, where Via Ferrata, the Iron Road, winds between the vertical cliffs of Italy and Austria, like a thin thread connecting people, war, and ancient nature. Built during World War I to support soldiers crossing the rugged Alps, Via Ferrata today becomes a place where adventurous souls find themselves through each hook on the rock, each breath clinging to the edge of the abyss. Legend has it that this was once the domain of Cernunnos, the Celtic god of the mountains, and that every echo on the cliffs was a call to guide lost souls back home. But the Via Ferrata is not only a dangerous place. Every September, the Almab Trib festival takes place bustlingly in the valley. Herds of cattle return from the mountains, bringing with them the sound of flower bells and the joy of reunion. Between the danger and the poetic, the Via Ferrata reminds us that nature can be fierce, but always welcomes those brave enough to enter. Leaving the European cliffs where steel and stone merge on the Via Ferrata, we come to Pacaya, a living volcano, burning red in the heart of Guatemala, where the earth breathes, the rocks flow, and legends still glow in the ashes. At 2,552 meters high, Pacaya is not only a destination for those who love geology or adventure, but also a sacred symbol in ancient Maya beliefs. The ancients believed that this was the home of the god of fire, the guardian of the crops and the land, who gave life through ash and the fury of the earth. Although Pacaya has erupted more than 20 times, the largest in 1965, the people have not been afraid of it. On the contrary, they celebrate the Virgen de la Asunción festival every year, climbing to the top of the mountain, bringing flowers and food to the gods, praying for fertility and peace. Standing amid the warm black rock, watching the lava flows slowly through the darkness, we not only see the power of nature, but also feel the intense life that is reborn every day from deep within the heart of the earth. From the wild mazes of Canyonlands, the journey continues to lead us to Huashan Mountain, a sacred wonder of China, where the earth and sky seem to merge into one. With an altitude of 2,154 meters, Huashan is not only one of the 5 great mountains, but also considered a meeting place between the human world and the divine world. Legend has it that this was the place where Sun Wukong went to practice and learn magical powers to fight against fate. The steep wooden paths cling to the steep cliffs, the ancient steps worn by generations of Taoists make every step bring a feeling of both excitement and admiration. In spring, pine forests and wildflowers bloom all over the mountain, adding to the already majestic scenery and making it even more magical. But behind that beauty are many challenges. The steep cliffs are not for the faint-hearted. In Huashan, every wind that blows seems to tell ancient prayers. Every step is a prayer for peace. This is not just a destination, but a journey to find courage and connection with the source. Leaving the sacred space of Huashan, we come to Giro del Sorapis in the Dolomites region of Italy, where nature and legend blend together like a fairy tale love song. According to legend, the fairy Sorapis sacrificed herself to transform into this great mountain, to protect two villages from the fury of the storm. That story is still passed down by the people here as a way to express gratitude to the tolerance and power of nature. The 3,277-meter-high Giro del Sorapis is part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, featuring towering limestone blocks and a magical turquoise lake hidden in the heart of the mountain. Not only attracting visitors with its picturesque beauty, this place is also a paradise for those who are passionate about geology and archaeology. As the trail winds its way up the mountainside, you can feel the echoes of the wind, as if the fairy Sorapis is still silently guarding the peace of this land. In every fragile breath at the top, one finds admiration, compassion, and the feeling of being embraced by something more sacred than reality. From the snowy slopes of New Zealand's Cascade Mountains, we cross the ocean to the Kalalau Trail, which winds along Hawaii's majestic Na Pali coast. A trail that not only challenges the body, but awakens the spirit. Legend has it that the goddess Pele, the legendary Hawaiian god of fire, created this path thousands of years ago. At approximately 17.7 kilometers long, the Kalalau Trail is the only way into the Kalalau Valley, a separate, sacred world where time seems to stand still. Passing through steep cliffs, white waterfalls, and pristine beaches, travelers not only face the harshness of the terrain, but also touch the depths of tradition, faith, and self. In the afternoon light filtering through the clouds, you can see the image of ancient ancestors appearing in the sea breeze, like a blessing from the sacred world. Kalalau Trail is more than just a journey between forest and sea. It is an invitation to return to the source, where nature and mythology become one. And as the last rays of sunlight shimmer on the Na Pali cliffs, we head south to Huayna Picchu, the majestic mountain that guards the ancient Inca city of Machu Picchu, where clouds and mythology blend at an altitude of 2,692 meters. For the Incas, this was more than just a mountain peak. It was the abode of the gods, the gateway between the human world and the sacred world. It is believed that on important occasions, the gods would descend through the white clouds, sending instructions to the inhabitants below. The climb to Huayna Picchu is a steep challenge, with ancient stone steps that touch the edge of a deep chasm. But each step opens up a new layer of meaning. You are not only walking on sacred ground, but also touching the living legacy of a civilization that once flourished in the Andes. Standing at the summit and looking down at the mist-shrouded Machu Picchu, a feeling of awe and peace will come over you, as if your soul has just touched something eternal, ancient, and immortal. From the melancholy mountains of Glencoe, we drift quietly south, where El Caminito del Rey, the King's Little Path, winds between the sheer cliffs of El Chorro Gorge, southern Spain. This is not just a precarious path of more than 3 kilometers, but a trail of memories suspended between the sky and the abyss, where every step is a testament to courage or sheer recklessness. Originally built in the early 20th century to serve engineers and workers at a hydroelectric plant, El Caminito quickly became legendary. With its rotting railings and rickety planks hanging 100 meters above the ground, the path was once dubbed the most dangerous trail in the world. But that is what makes it so strangely attractive. This place is not for those who like safety, but for those who crave challenges and the feeling of living to the fullest. Below is the abyss. Above is the brilliant blue Andalusian sky. El Caminito del Rey makes people gasp, not only because of the height, but because of the overwhelming realization we are living, truly living, right in this moment. When the heart is still trembling after the steps hanging on El Caminito del Rey, we find Maroon Bells, 2 proud twin peaks in the majestic Rocky Mountains of Colorado, USA. Here, everything seems to slow down. The surface of Maroon Lake reflects every contour of the wine-colored peaks. The rows of pine trees stand still, and the white clouds drift like the mist of a dream that does not want to wake up. According to Ute legend, these mountains were born from the tears of a princess who lost her lover in war. The teardrops turned to stone, creating a soft purple color on the surface of ancient shale. Standing before that scene, one cannot help but feel small, as if nature is telling a sad love story that only those who are quiet can hear. Whether in the golden autumn or the snowy winter, Maroon Bells always stirs people's hearts with its fragile and eternal beauty, where sadness becomes poetic and nature gently embraces every crack in the soul. Leaving the quiet and melancholy of Maroon Bells, the journey takes us to the Mist Trail in Yosemite National Park, California, where water, light, and legend blend into a lively symphony. This path leads to 2 of the most majestic waterfalls in the United States, Vernal and Nevada, where the thin mist from the falling water creates a magical world, like something out of a fairy tale. For the indigenous Miwok, Mist Trail is sacred ground, where the divine dwells in every drop of water. They say the falls are the tears of a princess who cried until her soul entered the eternal stream after losing her kingdom. On each wet stone step, you not only see rainbows sparkling in the early morning sunlight, but also hear ancient whispers echoing from the ground, like a love song sent to the sky. Mist Trail is more than just a waterfall climb. It is a cleansing experience, where nature washes away the dust of the modern world, leaving us with only the most pristine, beautiful, and pure things. And with the mist from the Mist Trail still on our hands, we crossed the ocean to Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, where nature doesn't whisper, but roars with fire, ash, and myth. Standing 1,745 meters tall and having lain dormant for centuries, Pinatubo suddenly awoke in June 1991, creating one of the most powerful volcanic eruptions of the 20th century, with more than 10 million tons of ash covering the sky and cooling global temperatures for years. But behind that destructive power was the breath of the gods. According to the indigenous Eta people, this is the abode of Apo Namalyari, the supreme deity who has the power to test humanity with the fury of nature. They believe that the deep crater lake formed after the eruption is the eye of the gods, always watching over human behavior. Standing in front of the still lake today, no one would suspect that it was once the epicenter of destruction. But that is what makes Pinatubo sacred, a reminder that beauty is always accompanied by awe, and that nature never truly sleeps.